Hi guys, welcome back to Code Master Coach, your medical coding tutor. Okay guys, we're continuing our review of the official 2025 ICD-10-CM coding guidelines. We stopped at chapter 20, we're down to letter G. All right. Yep, child and adult abuse guidelines. So let's go to the guidelines first. The guidelines for child and adult abuse state that adult and child abuse, neglect, and maltreatment are classified as an assault. So again, abuse, neglect, and maltreatment are all assaults. Any of the assault codes may be used to indicate the external cause of any injury resulting from the confirmed abuse. Notice it said confirmed abuse. For confirmed cases of abuse, neglect, and maltreatment, when the perpetrator is known, when the person that committed the crime or the abuse is known, then a code from Y07, perpetrator of maltreatment and neglect, should accompany any other assault codes. All right, that's G. The only thing I have here is abuse, neglect, and maltreatment are classified as assault in the external cause index. So when you're looking up the external cause for abuse, neglect, and maltreatment, look up the main term assault. And don't forget the perpetrator. If they tell you who the perpetrator is. It's the husband, it's the wife, it's the child. If they tell you who it is, category Y07 should also be coded if known. If not known, don't even assign a code from Y07. All right, H, unknown or undetermined intent guideline. Let's see what the guidelines say on that. If the intent, was it accidental? Was it self-harm? Or was it assault? So if the intent of the cause of an injury or other condition is unknown or unspecified, then code the intent as accidental. Say that again. If the intent of the cause of an injury or other condition is unknown or unspecified, then it should be coded as accidental. But all transport accident categories assume an accidental intent. They don't think people go out there trying to carry people different places and potentially having an accident. So transport accident categories are assumed to be an accidental intent. And one says use of undetermined intent. External cause codes for events of undetermined intent are only for use if the documentation and record specifies that the intent cannot be determined. So the only time you can use undetermined is if it's not. Okay, and my notes say that. If the intent of the cause of an injury is unknown, code the intent as accidental. Your choices of intent are accident, self-harm, and assault. Also, all transport accident categories assume accidental intent. And then I got events of undetermined intent. If it's undetermined for external cause coding, are only for the use if the documentation in the record states that the cause cannot be determined. So if you don't know whether it was accident, self-harm, or an assault, you can use that undetermined intent. All right, we're down to I, sequela. When I say sequela, what comes to mind to you? What do you think of? And I've got a couple of notes on here for Coach. Always think of a sequela as a late effect of an external cause. And with sequelas that have a seventh character, and they do, you usually have that little seventh character box that says character A is the initial encounter, D is for subsequent encounter, or S is for sequela. So just remember, A, with the initial encounter, it does not mean the first visit. I have to remind my students, it does not mean, it could be the second or third, and still be A, as long as they're receiving active treatment. A good example would be a patient that came in for a cut on their finger, didn't stay in the ER, left, end up coming back to the ER because it won't stop bleeding. 2 weeks later, it's still the initial because they're still going to receive active treatment on it. Then subsequent is when, after they've gotten the stitches or whatever, and they're just coming in for follow-up, that is a subsequent encounter. And then the sequela, the S, seventh character S for sequela, is the late effect. Had it not been for this condition, now they have this. So you're identifying a late effect of. So I put a note on here that says sequela, external cause codes, are the result of terms like late, old, due to a previous injury or illness, following a previous injury or illness. See how this is saying like something else occurred first and now this. Or they had this stroke 20 years ago and they're still paralyzed on one side. Okay, and let's see where we at on the guidelines. That's one. Okay, I, sequela, late effect of external cause guidelines. Number one, sequela external cause codes. Sequela are reported using the external cause code with the seventh character S for sequela. These codes should be used with any report of a late effect or sequela resulting from a previous injury. So due to a previous injury, now today you got this. That is a sequela. Sequela, external cause code with a related current injury. A sequela external cause code should never be used with the related current nature of an injury code. If you're just coming in for the injury and it's not the result of a previous injury, it's not a sequela. So if it's saying here a sequela code should never be used with the related current nature of an injury. And I don't think I put any additional line notes because I feel like it stated current injuries does not justify a sequela code. Okay, that's just straight from the guidelines. And number three, subsequent visits. Let's see what the guidelines say. Use a late effect external cause code for subsequent visits when a late effect of the initial injury is being treated. Do not use a late effect external cause code for subsequent visits for follow-up care. For example, to assess healing, to receive rehabilitative therapy, visits like that of the injury when no late effect of the injury has been documented. So I think I came straight from that guideline when I made my little note at 3. Use of sequela external cause codes for subsequent visits only if condition is being treated. If the sequela is being treated, then you'd use the external cause code. And again, if it's a current injury, it's not a sequela. All right, we're down to terrorism guidelines. We're down to J, terrorism guideline. First, the definition of terrorism. And it tells you in the guidelines that, let me show it to you in the guideline. When the cause of an injury is identified by the federal government or FBI as terrorism, the first listed external cause code should be a code from category Y38, terrorism. The definition of terrorism employed by the FBI is found at the inclusion note at the beginning of category Y38. And so let me show you. I've got that Y38 category. I've got a scan of the tabular list. I'm going to go down to Y38 right here where it says, see, official guidelines, terrorism guidelines. We're at 1C20J. That's where we are right now. These codes are for use to identify injuries resulting from the unlawful use of force or violence against persons or property to intimidate or coerce a government, the civilian population, or any segment thereof in furtherance of political or social objective. It's in our code books. So it's there to remind you. You might want to highlight that definition or whatever. But I love that it also gives you a note. Use an additional code for place of occurrence, Y92. And this is how your seventh character is identified in your code book. See, it says here the appropriate seventh character is to be added to each code from category Y38. Either an A for initial, D for subsequent, or S for sequela. So again, your book gives you the definition, the words to use so that you'll know exactly what terrorism is. Let's go back to the guideline. All right. Use of additional code for place of occurrence. It says use an additional code for place of occurrence, Y92, which remember that note told us. And more than one Y38 code may be assigned if the injury is the result of more than one mechanism of terrorism. Number 2, cause of an injury is suspected to be the result of terrorism. Let me make sure I covered everything for, okay, cause of injury is suspected to be the result of terrorism. Refer to the guidelines. All right, so let's see what it says. When the cause of an injury is suspected to be the result of terrorism, a code from category Y38 should not be assigned. Suspected cases should be classified as assault. So let's look at this again. When the cause of an injury is suspected to be the result of terrorism, then a code from Y38 should not be assigned. That's the key. Suspected cases should be classified as assault. Self-explanatory. And number 3, category Y38-9, terrorism, secondary effects. Make sure my outline says, yep, refer to the guidelines, okay? Assign code Y38-9, terrorism, secondary effects for conditions occurring subsequent to the terrorist event. Now this is subsequent to, secondary effects subsequent, after. This code should not be assigned for conditions that are due to the initial terrorist act. It is acceptable to assign code Y38-9 with another code from Y38 if there is an injury due to the initial terrorist event and an injury that is a subsequent result of the terrorist event. So again, something that happened after the initial is the only time that you would use Y38.9. Yep, refer to the guidelines. All right, we're down to K, external cause status. Again, I got a note that says straight from the guidelines, so let's go to K. A code from category Y99, external cause status, should be assigned whenever any other external cause code is assigned for an encounter, including an activity code, except for the events noted below. Assign a code from category Y99, external cause status, to indicate the work status of the person at the time the event occurred. The status code indicates whether the event occurred during military activity, whether a non-military person was at work, whether an individual, including a student or volunteer, was involved in a non-work activity at all at the time of the causal event. So again, let me say this again. The status code, the status, what type of person was this, indicates whether the event occurred during military activity, whether a non-military person was at work, and whether an individual, including a student or volunteer, was involved in a non-work activity at the time of the causal event. So in external cause index, if you go to the main term status, you're just identifying, were they a student? Were they on the job? Were they civilian? Were they military? That's your status codes. A code from Y99, external cause status, should be assigned when applicable with other external cause codes such as transport accidents and falls. The external cause status codes are not applicable to poisonings, adverse effects, and misadventures or late effect. And guys, this is a note that I write in my book every year. I've got it memorized, but on the external cause index, I make a note to myself at the beginning. I've got all kind of little notes, but put a note there that says the external cause status codes are not applicable, and I'd identify poisonings, adverse effects, and misadventures or late effects. You don't code those from external cause codes, okay? And do not assign a code from category Y99 if no other external cause code, such as a cause or an activity, are applicable for the encounter. If you're not identifying any of the others, such as activity, place of occurrence, or status, then don't identify the Y99. If no other external cause code is used, then don't assign a code from category Y99. And it also says an external cause status code is used only once at the initial encounter for treatment, and only one code from Y99 should be recorded on a medical record. Do not assign code Y99.9 unspecified external cause status if the status is not stated. Don't even assign it. If they don't even tell you what the status is, don't even assign a Y99 code at all. They didn't identify the student, military, civilian. They didn't identify the status of the patient at all, so don't even put a code on there from Y99. Make sure I'm covering everything straight from the guidelines. All right, guys, that's it for this week on the guidelines. We're coming right back with Chapter 21, Factors Influencing Health Status and Contact with Health Services. And these codes can be found between Z00 through Z99. So this is going to be an interesting chapter here. All right, guys, that's it. Leave your comments below. I appreciate they're coming in now, so I appreciate you guys are wanting these, and so I'm going to continue to upload these. Thanks, guys. I'll be right back with the next video.